Good morning, Oxnard. We are beginning segment 3 of our piece on Election Integrity Project. My name is Alex Bierum, president of the Oxnard Port Hueneme Optimist Club, and I'm with Ruth Weiss. She is the co-founder of the Election Integrity Project here in California. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And currently in this segment, we're going to discuss legislative updates that are going to be taking place and how they interact with EIPCA for upcoming 2020 election. So would you like to begin by telling us a little bit about our current legislation for elections?
Well, sure. I'd like to say that most of us are very grateful to have laws because that's what protects us and the enforcement of those laws. And I look at it, kind of everybody loves to talk about the juicy topic of fraud, right, and election manipulation. And so that we have to keep getting asked, you know, how much of that is there out there? Well, the laws are there in order to protect us from that because that's always going to be there. It's just part of human nature. And so I like to compare that to a sea full of sharks. Those sharks are always going to be there. But we can successfully and safely swim with those sharks if we're in a shark cage. Well, those laws are a shark cage. Those vertical bars are the laws, the strong protective laws that keep all the sharks at bay. But that's not going to help unless we've got the horizontal bars. And those horizontal bars represent the enforcement of those laws. And so as we have looked in Election Integrity Project California at the current laws, and we have seen that starting about 2012 was when we really started paying attention, we had some pretty good laws in California. It was really very well constructed, aside from the fact that we don't have voter ID, which we think would help a lot. But what we began to see is that those horizontal bars were missing, that the enforcement of those laws was really very lax. And so that was one of the reasons that we got involved, trying to maybe shore that up a little bit. But between 2012 and now, we've seen a great erosion of those vertical bars, and we've seen the laws weakened so that now we don't have the protection of either the vertical or the horizontal bars the way we should, and that's why more sharks are getting in California. Our current laws are allowing people to vote anywhere and anyhow that they want to without letting them know that when they cast that provisional ballot, they're not casting the ballot they're entitled to. Their ballot has to be greatly manipulated to remove votes that they weren't allowed to cast, and a lot of things can happen in that translation. So the legislation that we have now is just continuing to weaken what we have. Another real problem in California is our anybody can vote by mail situation. And I know sometimes that ruffles a lot of feathers, but whenever you push the easy button in life, you find out that there are consequences. And a mail ballot can suffer all kinds of problems, from getting lost in the mail to getting mishandled to who knows what. So we encourage people who can to try to vote in person. And that way is the best way to protect your vote. Now, what's happening between the laws that were in effect in 2018 and now? In 2018, California piloted in 5 counties a program called the Voters' Choice Act, in which the county sets up vote centers and gets rid of the neighborhood polling places. So those counties no longer had polling places right down the street in a convenient location, and people had 11 days of an open vote center to try to go by if they needed to. But the crux of that is that when you accept that law in your county, and counties make that decision county by county, when you accept that law, it means that every voter on the voter rolls is mailed a vote by mail ballot, whether they've asked for it or not. That's problematic because of what we've proven about how much chaos there is in the voter rolls. So we're getting ballots sent out over everywhere with no one on the other end to receive it. And so they're flying all over everywhere, and that creates an integrity concern. Also, you've got people now receiving this ballot and not being informed that they don't have to use it. They think, oh, well, this is how I have to vote. And so they're subjecting their vote to the mail system and to all of the things that happen with vote by mail ballots, when the vote center is there for them to be able to go to, and it really should be a convenience. They can go to any vote center in their county, and they can vote anytime in those 11 days, and they can cast an in-person vote. They don't have to use that. But the counties that piloted did not do a good job of letting their people know that. And so everybody would vote by mail. Now we've got about 20 more counties signing on for this election cycle in 2020, including the largest county in the nation, Los Angeles County, and Orange County, which has also been problematic. So those are very big challenges legally. The other thing that came into play in 2018 was we now had a conditional voter registration. That's, a lot of people know that as same-day registration, and it meant that if you had moved at the last minute or you became moved to vote at the last minute and you were not registered, within 15 days of the election, you could go to your voting center in the counties that had vote centers, or you could go to your registrar's office and you could register and then vote on the same day. But that ballot needed to be a provisional ballot until they could check the accuracy and the legitimacy of your registration.
And what's the difference between a provisional ballot and a regular ballot?
Well, the ballots are identical, except that the provisional ballot is turned in an envelope. And it must be researched. You have to practically give your whole life history on the outside of that envelope so they can check to see if you are legitimately allowed to vote in that county, if you have voted previously. All of these things get checked before they count that provisional ballot. And then when they take it out of the envelope, they still have to manipulate it because it's not likely to be the ballot you were entitled to. Now, the challenge for 2020 is that the legislature is on the cusp of passing a law that will allow mandate that every polling place in the state, not just the registrar's office where they have all the equipment and they have all the databases and the information, but every polling place has to allow the same-day voting. And we already saw in 2018, our observers saw many places where the poll workers got confused. They thought they were supposed to allow that at the polling place, and some of them even allowed them to vote with a same-day ballot with no provisional ballot. So these people who may not have been entitled to vote got to cast a vote that couldn't be called back. We're very concerned about the impact of that particular law going forward into 2020 and beyond because of the fact that poll workers have we've already shown with our observations and our documentation that they're not well enough trained, and they get inundated at various times of the day. And now for them to make this important decision of who gets to register and which kind of ballot do we give them, it's just way too much to ask. It needs to be done at a central location. And so those two laws, among all the others that are being passed this year, those two I think are the most important and will impact the integrity of our elections the most.
And how is election integrity taking on these new challenges and helping the average voter know where to vote and how they can vote?
Well, we're trying very hard through our coordinators in our various counties to educate, to do programs like this, to go out and speak to any group that invites us, and to try to let people know how they can protect their own vote. Whatever vote that is, we want every individual to feel that he or she has cast a vote that's protected and safe and will be counted accurately, and that's our goal. And so, education is a matter of getting out there and finding out how to get more people to pay attention and to realize the problems with just sort of half-heartedly filling out a ballot, not really thinking about where it goes. So that's part of what we're trying to do, is just educate people. And through our observation program, of course, those people are very educated. And then if they will then spread the word to the people that they know, we can kind of a geometric progression of information getting out there.
Very important.
We also have been employing a team at the area around Sacramento, where the legislative oversight team will look at these laws that are proposed. We will write letters of either support or opposition. We will send them to the committee members, but we will also then have our team go out and testify in the committee. So we're trying to at least alert these people at the legislature as to some of the implications of the laws that they're passing without having full information of what the consequences could be. And so they're starting to listen. They're not going our way yet, but at least they're paying attention and they're asking questions, so I think we're making some progress there.
Very good. Well, I want to thank you very much, Ruth, for updating us on the legislative updates for our upcoming election and how election integrity is taking a vital role in that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.